Hello everyone, my name is Aman Kumar Dhakad. I'm from batch 04CF at CyberSapiens. Today we are going to discuss on a very important topic, that is SSRF. So let's understand. So SSRF stands for the Server Side Request Forgery. So Server Side Request Forgery or SSRF is a type of web vulnerability that allows the attacker to make unauthorized or malicious request from a server, and the attacker manipulate the server to send the request to the internal or the external resources, which might disclose the sensitive information of the target server. This is the just definition of the SSRF. Now let's move deep into this. So before understanding the SSRF, we have to understand how actually the web server works. Okay, so let's understand how web server works. So the given image displays. So firstly, here the web browser are the client computers that request for the some any kind of resources over the internet through the web server. So the web browser of the client send the request to the web server, and web server accept the request and then make the response to the web browser over the internet. This is the basic working of the web server. Now let's understand how actually SSRF attack works. Okay, so in SSRF we have attacker. The attacker send the request to the vulnerable web server. Okay, and vulnerable web server send the request to the target server. You know why attacker is not able to send the request directly to the target server? It's because target server contain the WAF, that is the web application firewalls, and these web application firewalls block those malicious requests which was sent by the attacker. So that's why to escape this WAF, the attacker use the vulnerable servers, right? We also these vulnerable servers also known as false server. So attackers send the malicious request or the payload to the vulnerable server, and these vulnerable server send a request to the target server, and the target server send response to the vulnerable server again, and vulnerable server send request back to the attacker. Okay, in the diagram at the in the adjacent diagram we can also see this, that the attacker send the SSRF payload to the web server or the target web server, vulnerable web server, and that vulnerable web server send the request to the target web server, and similarly the target web server send the response to the vulnerable web server, and that vulnerable web server send the request to the attacker again. Okay, this is the basic working of the SSRF. So now let's move deeper into this. So SSRF attack mainly taken place from the input values where the user are supposed to input any kind of a value, or the some kind of resources fetching, some kind of resource is fetching from the server. So after that, we have lack of input validation. If the input of the user is not properly validated, so user can or the attacker can easily send the malicious payload, and if these are not validated, so this may result into the exploitation. Okay, right? This may result into the exploitation. If the input is not validated, this can exploit, right? So this is the basic of the SSRF. So let's understand and see the types of the SSRF. So broadly, we have four type of SSRF. First one is basic SSRF. Second is full response SSRF. Third is blind SSRF, and last one is filter bypass SSRF. Okay, so let's look them one by one. First is basic SSRF. So in basic SSRF, the attacker send the malicious request to the vulnerable web application. That vulnerable web application send request to the target system or the target server. That target server send request to the attacker again, or sorry, response to the attacker again through that vulnerable web application. This is all we have discussed just above. This is we have just discussed the basic SSRF above. So this may result into the uh, stealing of the sensitive data. The attacker can easily exploit this and gain an unauthorized access and easily steal the sensitive data or perform some malicious actions, right? This is all about the basic SSRF. So second is full response SSRF. It is quite different. So in full response SSRF, the like the previous one, the attacker send the malicious request to the vulnerable web application, and similarly the vulnerable web application send that request to the target web server, and target web server send response back to the attacker via that vulnerable web application. Okay, but the response is quite different, and in the full response SSRF, the response may include headers, body, and other kind of information in it, right? As you can see in the adjacent image, we have some headers and information, right? Here it is written that root x00 root. This is all the path. These are the very important paths of some sensitive information, right? In these paths, some sensitive information like passwords or some files are stored, like shadow files, password files, right? These type of files are stored. These are the path of those files. So basically, the full response SSRF gives the detailed information about the target system, right? In the blind SSRF, we are getting just basic information or some sensitive information too. But in the full response SSRF, we are getting the detailed information about the target system, right? So now let's look on to the next one. So next is blind SSRF. It is quite different from both of two. So in the blind SSRF, the attacker sent the request, but the attacker didn't receive any kind of response from the server. In the above two in the above two kind of SSRF, the attacker was getting response from the server, right? But in the blind SSRF, there is no response from the server. Here the attacker is completely blind. Okay, so how they predict? The attacker predict the response or the success through the indirect ways, right? They use some remote servers like Burp Collaborator. In Burp Suite, we have the option of Burp Collaborator. We use Burp Collaborator for prediction the success of our blind SSRF attack. Okay, so moving forward, we have last one, that is filter bypass SSRF. You know, some web applications have some filtering measures. Those filtering measures filter the request or some kind of responses and the input values, and they filter that input values according to some rules and regulations, right? So which result into the failure of the SSRF attacks and different type of attacks. Okay, but the hackers and the attackers have some tricks. Using those tricks, they can bypass those kind of filters, right? So these tricks are like URL encoding and IP obfuscation, alternate protocol. Okay, we will look it. So these are some examples of those tricks which we have just discussed. Using some uncommon protocols or scheme, like in this example, we have used file protocol instead of HTTP. Second is the URL obfuscation. Here we have used some mixed URL. And third one is using encoded or nested URL. Here the given URL is encoded in hexadecimal encoding, right? So these are the example of filter bypass SSRF. Okay, so moving forward. So now let's look on to the practical demo session. So have a practical hands-on to the given topic. So in the practical, we will cover the Portswigger lab, right? Portswigger lab of SSRF. Now let's have a practical hands-on to the Portswigger lab. So it is the Portswigger lab, and we are going to solve this lab. So let's read the lab description. So here it is stated that this lab contains some kind of stock check feature, and that feature fetches the data from the internal system. And to solve this lab, we have to scan this range of IP address which is given here, and at the port 8080 we have admin interface, right? and the ultimate target of our is to delete the user card loss, right? We have to delete the card loss user from the database. Then we will going to solve this lab. So first we access the lab. So here this is the lab, and this lab contains some stock check functionality, right? So it may contain. So before moving forward, first let's turn on a burp proxy. Okay, after that select any post, and okay, at the bottom this contains some kind of stock check functionality, right? Here the check stock functionality is present. If we click on check stocks, so we get some kind of result, right? Okay, if I try to change this and then again click on check stock, we get some kind of result. Okay, this result is fetched from the Intel system, right? This result is stored in the Intel system, and using some measures or some URLs, this result is fetching from that Intel system, right? So now let's read the HTTP history of burp suit. Okay, so here in the HTTP history, let's check the HTTP history. Okay, so here here this is the request of that stock, right here. Okay, so let's move it to the send to the repeater, and in the repeater section we can see that here in the stock API functionality we have some IP address here and some stock check functionality, right? So this is the path from where the uh, Intel system has stored some kind of details from where this is fetching, right? So what we have to do is, according to the lab description, we have to scan the IP range of this IP address, right? And to access the admin panel. Okay. So so first what we have to do is we will clear this and try to generate some payload that we will type HTTP colon slash slash and that IP address, right? Which is 192.168.0.x. Here x is written because it is the range, right? The range of IP address is from 0 to 255, right? So 192.168.0 dot first we have taken the first value as 0. Okay, and we have given the port number that is 8080, and what we have to do, we have to access the admin panel, right? So we have to write the admin. Okay, so here we have to scan all the range of IP address, right? So first we try to send this request which we have made. Okay, so we get the error 500, which is internal server error, right? So this might not be that IP address which contain admin interface. So we have to just scan for the range of IP address, right? It is not possible to check manually the 255 IP address, right? So we will send this request to the repeater and prepare an attack. Using that attack, we can easily check for the correct IP address, right? So we will send this request to the intruder, and in the intruder first we clear all this marker and select that. Okay, we'll select this and add a marker, and again write port 8080 slash admin. Okay, so we have selected the last value. Okay, we have to change this last value so that we can easily figure out the correct IP address. So we have to select the payload, and here in the payload type we have to select the number. The starting value will be from 1 because we have tried the 0 already, right? And the ending value will be 255. Okay, because we have 250 IPs within this range, and the step is 1. Okay, so our attack is ready. So let's start the attack and wait for the response. Okay, so attack has been completed, and let's sort the result. Okay, so interesting. And we got some different result, right? At 14, right? At 14, we have got some different result, and you know that you can observe that here most of the results are 500 status, which means like Intel server error, right? So here only the single one, that 14 one has the 200 okay. So let's try this on place of 0. So we will discard this and go to the repeater, and in place of 0 we will type 14. Okay, then port 8080, because on port 8080 we have our admin panel. Okay, now let's try to send this request and observe the result. Okay, so we got, yes, we got the result 200 okay. So this is the correct address for the admin panel. Okay, uh, okay, this is, here it is stated that it is the admin panel, right? And what we have to do, we have to delete the user Carlos, right? To delete the user Carlos, we have to use this command. Okay, you have to use this payload. So what we have to do is we have to uh, delete this user. So we will generate the payload, delete username equal to Carlos. Okay, so now let's try to send the request. Okay, so here it is written that 302 found. Now let's check to our browser and look for the response. Okay, so it might be waiting. Let's reload this. Okay, so congratulations, we have solved the lab. So simply what we have did, first we have checked for the stock check functionality, and then in the stock API function, what we have did, we have scanned for the range of the IP addresses, which led us to the admin panel, right? We have scanned all the range of the IP address, and in which we have found that 14.1, okay, 192.168.0.14 will be the correct one, and we are able to just delete the user Carlos. So in this way we have solved this lab. So this is practical of the SSRF, and we can also try other labs too. Okay, so now let's moving back to our PPT and discuss more about the SSRF. Now let's look on to the impact and the mitigations of the SSRF. So after this practical demo, now let's move forward. Now let's look on to the impact of SSRF. First is internal network scan. The attacker or the hacker is able to scan the internal network. Second is bypassing the firewall, as we have discussed above, that how filter bypass is used, and this can easily bypass the firewall, right? We The attacker uses the vulnerable servers, and the third is sensitive information disclosure, right? In the full response SSRF, we have seen how the sensitive information is disclosed, right? So sensitive information disclosure is also the impact of SSRF. Third is remote code execution. Okay, remote code execution is possible, and another one is denial of service, also known as DOS. it is also possible. There are many more impacts. Okay, now let's discuss some mitigation measure. By using these mitigation measure, we can minimize the risk of SSRF. Okay, so first is input validation and sanitization. The input which the user is giving should be validated or sanitized, right? If it is seems to be a malicious input, so that input should be not accepted. Okay, and the second is firewall rules. Firewall rules should be strictly followed. Okay, if the firewall rules are very strictly followed and very strictly cited or placed, so this will help in reducing the risk of bypassing the firewall, right? Third is secure cloud service metadata access. Fourth is network segmentation, right? Converting the network into the segments. Okay, network segmentations. Another one is monitor outbound traffic. Okay, all the traffic which is coming, incoming, or going out through the network, right? Or the outbound or incoming traffic, right? It should be monitored. Okay, it is check whether the malicious input is coming or going, right? It should be monitored. Okay, so which can also minimize the risk of SSRF. Okay, last is principle of least privileges. It means that the minimum privileges should be given to the people which is sufficient to do their jobs, right? For example, in our office, we have different privilege levels, right? We have different privilege levels, right? For example, that employee have some set of privilege level, like employee cannot access some premium features which admin or HR or CEO can access, right? Okay, CEO have very high privileges and admin also have very high privileges, but the normal employee does not have that kind of privileges, right? Okay, so the minimum privileges should be assigned, okay, so that people can do their job. Okay, uh, okay, so this is all about the SSRF. We have completely discussed about the what is SSRF. We have discussed about the types of SSRF and their examples, and completed the practical demo session, and also discussed the impact and the mitigation measures of the SSRF. So this one is from my side, and thank you everyone for watching.